guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at ways that the Russia-Ukrainian war could end. So I've seen some of these happen in the past, but not more recently, and there are definitely multiple ways that this war could either expand or just end right here. So first, let's look at the one that was most obvious in the beginning, but is now very unlikely, and that is actually Russia winning. In the beginning, everyone thought that they would overpower them, but the Ukrainians are fighting back, and they are actually giving Russia a run for their money. And honestly, over time now, they are gaining more land than they are losing. But let's go ahead and assume that Russia all of a sudden gets their act together, and we're going to assume that Belarus joins in, and that the front escalates. So let's go ahead and show how Russia could win this war. First things first, get back all of Donetsk and Luhansk. That's probably the easiest area for you to hold. So eastern Ukraine should be pretty easy to hold. From there, get your air force in order, Russia. I mean, seriously, your logistics are terrible. Your troops' morale is horrible. You try propaganda, but instead of propaganda, you get this thing where people support you, but the second they're on the front lines and they get access to all this stuff, the second they're shown what the war actually is, they just leave. You need to get that under the control. Honestly, the best thing you can do, just opt out, try and get a bit of land over here in eastern Ukraine and near Crimea. But let's go ahead and assume that you don't do that and you actually start to improve yourself, improve your military, and oh yeah, there's that new meeting between China and Russia, huh? Well, let's go ahead and assume that China decides to fully support Russia. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, depends on how it goes, but let's go ahead and assume that. So now they're at Chinese guns and Chinese tanks helping out the Russians. So we're going to assume that they're starting to win. Russia's first goal is going to be to take full naval and air superiority. From there, they're going to be pushing around the coast. And yes, there's, of course, the major river, but pushing around the coast shouldn't be too difficult here. They should be able to make it, capturing important cities like Odessa. With that gone, support is going to be mostly pushing in from Poland, and they're going to begin to push down the Polish corner, the Polish border, to cut off that supply. But here's where another one of the scenarios could happen, which it's kind of in the middle of this one, but that is basically just some Ukrainian troops fleeing into Poland, Russian troops going after them, and now there are Russian troops in Poland. And that, of course, would activate all of NATO. I'm not going to be coloring that in because I've done plenty of Russia versus NATO videos in the past, and I'm going to do plenty more in the future. But that is a possibility. Pretty sure we all hope that that doesn't happen, but it could very well happen. From there, Russia's going to cut off their border with Poland and begin to push towards Kiev. They then begin to push down the river, meet up with the border of Moldova, cut the country into two. Also, that's not where it is, but it's fine. Well, Ukraine, at this point, capture Lviv, and they are done for. Kherson fell a while ago, too. So yeah, Russia, that is one way you should get it. You could get it, but that relies on a lot of things, including you actually getting your act together. Like, seriously, Russia, you are getting embarrassed by Ukraine. Now, let's look at another scenario, and that is one in which Ukraine starts to win. They begin to push back in the south near Crimea and back into eastern Ukraine. With this, Putin, he's not the dumbest man, but he's gonna go a bit crazy. He's gonna start wondering how the Ukrainians are winning. And although Ukraine does not start any pushes into Russia, Putin starts to get worried about this, as they were just cut off from Crimea, and Putin is actually starting to worry about Ukrainian troops threatening the Russians. Because of this, they're going to do what we all hope doesn't happen once again, and that is this. Nuclear bombs. Of course, as I said, hopefully this isn't what happens, because if this happens, then this is going to happen. And then this is going to happen. And then this is going to happen. And then the entire world is just, it's all gone. If Russia starts using nukes, I don't know if this is correct, but NATO might retaliate. And that could probably lead into the next, all of global extinction. All of Europe and Russia would be absolutely destroyed by nuclear bombs, until eventually the entire continent of Europe is a massive wasteland from nuclear radiation, etc., etc. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that might even be worse than Russia versus NATO, but Russia versus NATO would also start a massive use of nuclear bombs. So yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen, but it very well could. So yeah, that's just what Russia would most likely do if they ever actually get backed into a corner by Ukraine, or if Ukraine ever starts to pose a threat to the Russians on their border. Putin would most likely just start losing his mind and throwing nukes everywhere, trying to kill everyone before he's killed. Another option is if the Russian people start getting involved and rebelling. I don't think this is very likely, sadly, because of the crackdown that the Russian government is doing on its people, and as I said, all propaganda efforts. But if this did happen, Russia could most likely fall into complete and total civil war. This isn't a scenario that's talked about very much, but protests are dying down as the Russians are destroying anyone who fights against them. But if enough propaganda from the West could get inside, if the Russians could be given access to Western media, I think they could very well start to rise up. And, well, then there's a 50-50 chance. Either 50% that the Russians manage to crack down and destroy these rebellions before they take shape, or 50% chance that as the Russian government cracks down, more and more people rise up. So yeah, that's another one. I don't know if it would lead to more or less death, but honestly, this war isn't good to begin with, so I don't think any scenario is going to be good. And then the final scenario, the most peaceful one for here at least, is just, it's going to be peace here. It's going to be Russia saying, fine, we have enough land, just don't join NATO, we'll take whatever land we've gotten, and we will sign a peace treaty. This is most likely because they're starting to see less and less progress taking place, and they'll just take whatever land they can get right now and leave the war. Of course, this would lead to Russia growing in strength a bit, but Ukraine, their country has already been bombed, not nuclear, but bombed heavily, and this would not be great. Obviously, these borders aren't perfect. Honestly, it's bothering me. I'm going to draw them in better. But the point is, this is just Russia taking some land and offering Ukraine peace. Yeah, the peaceful scenario may not even be the best one. Ukraine, I can see you pushing back to the Russian border. I can see you winning this thanks to the morale, but could you really, in the long term, defeat Russia? I don't know, it all depends on some factors, but these are just a few of the outcomes that could happen. There are many different things that could influence this. Obviously, Ukraine is pushing back right now, so I don't know what the Russians are going to do, how they're going to retaliate. Obviously, the Ukrainians, one scenario is that they actually win, and that Russia is forced out of all of their land and is forced to give Crimea back. That would be an embarrassment to Russia. Not that this war already isn't. If anything, Ukraine could just start posing a threat to the Russian government. Russia is planning to invade Moldova, invade Georgia, expand. With this, their government would be absolutely humiliated on a global stage. Well, that's another option. Maybe, likely, maybe not. With US support flooding in Russia, all you can really do is cut that off. Well, besides that, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.